Hey there everyone, this is Ill Factor from beatacademy.com, and in this video I want to recreate some of the sounds and textures that we hear on XXXTentacion's Jocelyn Flores. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Now the track itself is pretty straightforward. You have a guitar riff that's playing on top of a drum beat, and the artist is performing and doing his thing on top of that, and it pretty much just loops over and over. But what really catches my attention is the texture and the sonic quality of that guitar riff. Almost sounded as if they were just recording it from a voice memo off their phone, imported it into the session, and just worked everything around that. And so what I want to do is kind of recreate that sonic texture. So I've recorded some acoustic guitar into Ableton Live. So let's take a listen. Now I'm going to use some sound design to get it to sound more grittier and almost like a sample. So I'm going to start off by using the cabinet plugin in Ableton Live 9. Now this is just to emulate a speaker cabinet. And so you can follow along with using any DAW and using any amp simulator or cabinet plugin that you might have. So I'm going to click this, drag and drop. And what this is doing is this is going to emulate as if I was re-recording this acoustic guitar through a speaker. And you can also accomplish the same effect as if you were to crank up the volume on your studio monitors and re-record what you're hearing through a microphone in the room. But if you don't want to go through all that, you can simply just use the cabinet plugin. Now you can determine how far the mic placement would be. So right now it's near and on axis, directly facing the speaker cone. And if we choose far, we're kind of distancing the microphone away from the source. In this case, it would be the speaker that the acoustic guitar is coming out of. So I like that on near, and we're going to dial back the dry and wet knob a little bit. And then I'll leave it on the 12-inch, the one 12-inch speaker. But you can go ahead and feel free to just choose any one of these different selections of speaker settings and see what, this is all going to be to personal taste. You can also change from condenser to a dynamic microphone. So I like the actual condenser sound. Now after the cabinet plugin, let's go ahead and use an EQ. We're going to grab Ableton Live's EQ8 here. So I'm just going to take off that low end. And let's see what it sounds like if we took some of the high end off as well. Now getting rid of the high end here with the EQ gives it more of a warmer feel. And getting rid of the low end here with the EQ is kind of emulating the voice memo on a phone. It doesn't really pick up that much low end. So that's what we're going for here. So now let's go ahead and get it to feel a little bit more lo-fi. And I'm going to use the Redux for that. And this is just a digital distortion plugin. And you could use any digital distortion plugin that you might have on your DAW. And so here on the one on Ableton Live, I'm going to go from the down sampling that's set to hard and switch it over to soft. And put the bit reduction. And you can kind of play around with having either the bit reduction on or the downsampling. The downsampling it just becomes a little bit more evident that it's very evident that you're using a digital distortion. So I'll use a little bit of that and a little bit of the bit reduction. And then what I'm going to do is move the Redux to the left of the EQ so that the EQ actually takes away some of the high stuff that we're hearing from the digital distortion. There you go. Next, I'm going to use the saturator. I'm going to crank up the gain a little bit by just increasing the drive. And then I'll use a compressor just to control a little bit of those fret noises that are happening. And after the compressor, I'm going to use a little bit of vinyl distortion just to add some air. So I've got the crackle volume just at like 0.2. I mean, it's noticeable. So just a little bit of that. And just kind of messing around with some of the parameters here until it actually gives the right texture that I'm looking for. So let's go ahead and bypass all these. I'm going to first group them by selecting all the plugins and just right-clicking and choosing group. And let's listen to the guitar riff without the plugins and then with them on. And then here's with the plugins on. Probably use a little less drive here and a little less of crackle. And a little less of the cabinet. Now I'm also going to do some volume automation on the audio itself, just to give a little bit more control to that some of the fret noises. So I'm going to double click the clip, head over to the bottom left-hand corner and enable our envelope mode. Make sure I head over to the clip because that's what I want to focus my attention on. And inside the clip, we're going to focus on the volume modulation. So let's just highlight this little fret noise here and just hover over the top and just lower the volume. There you go. That'll help just control and balance that out all around. So now let's go ahead and create the beat. Now for the drums, I've loaded a drum rack and I've got some samples in there that I've taken from a sample pack that I've created, which you can download absolutely free just by clicking the link below in the description box. These are yours absolutely free. There's many kicks, snares, transition effects, construction kits, loops, 100% royalty free. And you can use this on any DAW that you're currently using. Simply click the link below in the description box and download that right away. Now, one of the things that can be troubling when step sequencing drums, meaning that you're drawing in the drum pattern, is giving it a humanistic feel to it, or some swing, or just a little bit of vibe. So what I've done is I've headed over here to the groove pool just by going to the left-hand corner here and click the hot swap for the groove. And I've gone over here to where it says swing. And under the swing folder, I'm going to preview a couple swing patterns or grooves. And there's swing 8th note 55. And the larger the number that you see here by the quantization or the timing just means how drastic or how much more of the swing is going to be implemented. So as you can see here, there's not that much swing on the 815, but compare that to the 875 and it's like he's galloping a horse, right? So I'm gonna go with the 55 and just double click that and it ends up here in your groove box, the groove pool. So we'll choose swing 855 and we're gonna hit commit. And what that's gonna do is it'll shift the notes and for the pattern that you've created, and it adds that swing vibe and feel to it. And you could hear it here, especially with that second kick. So it's happening just a little bit ahead, so I'm going to just nudge this back a little bit. And that's a cool way to actually just add some more life and feel to the drum patterns, especially when you're drawing them in. Now what I'm going to do after that is I noticed that second snare that we have, when I listen to the record, there's a snare that also is being accented with a little bit of reverb in there. So what we're going to do is in the drum rack, we're going to use this, the same exact snare, and we're simply just going to copy it over to the next drum cell. So let's hold down Option and drag that here. And then what we'll do is I'll just simply rename this and put verb SD, so verb snare drum. And then directly on this snare drum, let's go ahead and load a reverb. So go to the reverb here, and let's just drag and drop the reverb right on top of that. And then in the pattern, let's go ahead and place it right there. So it's this accented note here. So now inside the actual opening up the drum rack, we can actually mix our drums and get the balance just right. And so let's go ahead and look at that verb snare drum. Double clicking that, and let's go ahead and mess around with the parameters. Now, when I listen to the reverb, when I'm focusing in on the snare drum of the reference, I notice it's more of a room. It's not more of a hall. And what I mean by that is the atmosphere it's trying to recreate or replicate with the reverb isn't like, definitely the decay time is going to have to come down, and it's not as bright. It's a lot darker, so I can deal a lot. I can take away some of the high end with the input processing. And then when I listen to it, I'm focusing, it just feels like more of a room, right? So let's go ahead and lower the size a little bit. And we can even take away some of the high end of the diffusion. So let's see what that sounds like. And let's dial the dry and wet knob a little bit and see what we get. So there you go. That's more of that dark room. And I might brighten up the diffusion just a little bit. And just lower the decay time. Now, after I've gotten the drum balance the way I like it, I'm going to go ahead and load a drum bus. This is the Ableton Live drum bus, just to beef up and add some drive and crunch and bring up the transients a little bit of the overall drum rack. And this is without it. And this is with it. So now let's go ahead and hear the guitar beat along with the drums. Now what we're going to do is when we listen to the reference, there seems to be a little bit of sidechain happening so that there's ducking going on with the guitar sample. So what I'm going to do is now head over to the guitar sample track, and let's go ahead and put a compressor on the very end. And in this case, we're going to sidechain from the drums. So let's go ahead and choose our sidechain signal to be the drums. And inside the drums, let's go ahead and just mess around with having the kick drum become the source that allows the guitar to duck out of the way. So every time you hear the kick perform, the guitar sample will just simply duck out of its way. So that's what we're going to do. So let's do something drastic and then scale it back. I might want to just bring up the release a little bit so that the guitar takes its time in being, on its way back up from ducking away from the kick. So let's see what that sounds like. Now next I'm going to add just a little bit of electric pianos to give some bottom end and body to the guitar riff. So let's go ahead and choose MK1 preset from the electric instrument that comes with Ableton Live. So simply drag and drop that. And now what I'm going to do is click the actual audio, the guitar riff that we've recorded, just drag that over to the electric piano. And you'll notice there's an eighth note now hovering next to my mouse or the cursor. And once I do that, you have the option to convert the audio into MIDI. And so I want the harmony. I want Ableton Live to identify the different frequencies and the notes in the actual chords of the guitar so that it actually plays those same chords in the piano. This will save me some time from actually trying to replay that by hand. So now it's converted the audio into MIDI, and here are the actual MIDI notes, and let's play them together. You notice that it captured the timing of the guitar as well. Some of these notes are not snapped on the grid, which is really cool. So they'll play exactly identical in timing as well. So it's really cool. So let's go ahead and just have the first half of that. And we're going to use a filter. Let's go to our audio effects, drag an auto filter onto the electric keys, and just take all that off there and resonate a little bit of that lower end. And now what I'm going to do is just, let's go ahead and increase the length of all these notes. So select all of them and just drag a little bit to the right. And now let's go ahead and lower that and see what it sounds like with the guitar riff. I'm going to go in and lower and bring the notes back down. And just add a little bit of movement by just increasing the LFO a little bit. Well, there you go. Now, I hope this video has been helpful for you. And as I mentioned before in my previous videos, this isn't necessarily to dial in the exact patch and find the exact same instruments that they're using, but more or less to train your ears and know how to recreate some of the sonic texture that you hear on some of your favorite records. So, as my gift to you for watching this video, I'd love to send you that sample pack that I mentioned earlier, absolutely free. And it's also loaded with some instruments that you can use for your Ableton Live session as well as some vocal chain effects that I've created, a vocal chain that you could use directly onto your vocals to get it sounding the way you want them to. So it's yours absolutely free. Simply click the link below in the description box and download that. You can also visit www.beatacademy.com/pack. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.